Hello, everybody. This is Mick Labinskas from Climate Salad, and as a part of our videos and podcast series, chatting to interesting people doing amazing things in the world of climate. And one of those people I've had the fortunate opportunity to chat to over the last couple of years, and most recently in Adelaide at South Start, is Megan from CSIRO. Megan, how you going?
I'm good, thanks. Mick, how are you?
Really, really good. So Megan, just give us a quick intro. What do you do?
Yeah. Um, so I'm part of the innovation programs team at CSIRO. So I specifically manage a program called Kickstart. And what we do is we provide dollar match funding of up to $100,000 for startups through to medium-sized companies to come and do research and development projects with the CSIRO in the idea that that research is helping to develop some sort of product or process that they want to commercialize. And so they'll get access to our researchers, facilities, all of that to undertake these projects that hopefully will help them get from A to B much more quickly and a little bit cheaper as well.
Amazing. Can you, just for context, is there a really good example of a story that has gone through that you can share with us?
Yeah, well, first of all, there's way more than one, but I'm conscious we've got a very limited time. But I will also point people to the Kickstart website because we've got quite a few case studies on there. But a great one to highlight would be Rainstick, who we had the chat with at South Start together. So they've come through a number of the innovation programs that CSIRO offers. So starting with our on accelerator, and now we're doing some work together through the Kickstart program. And they also participated in some of our other offerings that are more on international expansion. So, our RISE accelerator that looks at climate and ag technologies between the Australian and Indian markets. So, they've been a great company to work with. We've been collaborating for a number of years now, and I think you'd be hard pressed to go to any startup event conference around Australia and not be hearing about what they're doing and just the impact that the work is going to have on the way that we do agriculture in Australia and no doubt internationally.
Yeah, really interesting, and love the Rainstick team. They're wonderful members of Climate Salad. The purpose of CSIRO as an organization, and then this work to bring that technology and commercialization out. Can you tell us about that? Like, how do those two components live and work together? Because they're obviously both important but different.
So I guess speaking from the work that I do and what our part of the organisation is, like we really want to reduce the barriers that currently exist for the research and industry sectors to work together. So we know that traditionally that's not been the easiest thing. There's been a lot of hurdles. It can be lengthy, can be super overwhelming for a small startup as well. Let's say you're a one or two person business and you want to go and work with, the one of the biggest science organizations there is. How do you do that? Where do you begin? So it's really about streamlining that process. So Kickstart provides end-to-end facilitation of that. We'll actually sit with the company and really understand what it is that they need support with. It could be that they have a brand new technology and don't have the capabilities within the business to solve a particular problem, or they could be more established and realize their technology has the opportunity to pivot to another sector, like the climate technologies, for example, and they need some help in tweaking or testing or validating that. So we really get them connected with that technical expertise. And that's the role that Kickstart has. And then that there's the funding that goes along with that. So it's a very quick process as well. So it's a, fast turnover to really get things moving. But then in other parts of the organization, we've got programs like Innovate to Grow, which will actually provide, it's a free program that provide 10 weeks of training for a small business that thinks they would benefit from doing some research, but again, is not really sure where to start. And so we'll run cohorts throughout the year that are specific to, say, the ag tech or climate tech sectors, advanced manufacturing, and get them working with mentors, actually coming up with a proposal that at the end of the day, they could go and present that to, doesn't have to be CSIRO, they could take it to a university partner, something like that, and say, hey, this is who we are, this is what we need help with, this is our vision and what we're doing, a pathway to market, and really have that solid, clear understanding of what their next step needs to be. So it's that training side of things, and we offer that through like our On Accelerator as well, which is more about spinning out the technologies from a university. And then, as I mentioned before, once you've got your product, well, where to from here? And it's that scale up as well. So the Rise Accelerator takes companies to India, gets them connected with, could be potential partners, manufacturers, understanding maybe some of the market or legalities or what's actually involved with launching into that market. And so we're just really fast tracking this process that can be so laborious for a small company to know who are all these people, how do I connect with them, who can make the right introductions. So all of our programs are quite different and varied in scope. We've got one in Queensland, the RUIC program, that works like Kickstart, but it's actually to partner the companies with the 4 regional Queensland universities. So we're all about collaboration at the end of the day. And I think the outcomes are really speaking for themselves. We've done nearly 400 projects in Kickstart now. So there's a real appetite for this sort of work.
Wow, 400. That's just incredible. And I think it's for someone who's been in this space for a long time, I think Australia has done incredibly well with some of our commercializing our research and taking it around the world. But I still think we're actually just scratching the surface. So are
Mm.
those 400, like give us an idea of like how much, I don't know if you know this stuff, how much research is there? Like what is the size and what is the size of the opportunity? Like how big could it be if we unlock all of this?
So Kickstart really sort of started because there wasn't a lot of R&D funding available for an early stage startup, no track record, no revenue, 1 week old. Most of the offerings out there, you needed to be, say, at least 18 months, have at least this much turnover. There was you were somewhat more established. So we knew we were going into sort of a risky part of the market because we actually didn't really have any competitor programs in a way. Um, and so what's the opportunity? Well, the portfolio of Kickstart companies is now worth over $3 billion. This is a cohort that typically nobody wanted to touch.
Yeah.
Um, I remember when we got to around 200 companies, I went back to have a look at the ABNs to see, how many of them had sort of survived that approximate 3-year period. And only I think 4 of those 200 weren't still active in that time frame. So we know that getting the expertise into the business early on, setting you on the what is likely to be a good track from the outset, or maybe, overused term, but fast fail you at the start so that whilst you've still got access to some funding and resilience and motivation, you don't spend sort of those first 2 years maybe going down a track that's not going to work. And so, in terms of the research dollars, we've done around, it's over 50 million worth of research now in that space, or it's resulted in around that much. And our companies have gone on to raise over 900 million in capital in that time as well. So some of that will be through, we've got companies in the climate tech space like Ulu, who most people would know. They've worked with us through Kickstart, and they've got some funding from our VC firm, Main Sequence, as well as others. So, there's a lot of different pathways they'll take, but the opportunity, this is a small scale program. We do maybe 40 projects a year. So to look back and see a portfolio with that dollar value that maybe hadn't been given the attention it deserved at the time, I think there's huge opportunity in that. And of course, there's risk. We're doing cutting edge science here. If we knew the answers, we wouldn't need to do the research. But that risk, I think we're really seeing the reward because, a lot of that risk can be mitigated. We just have to decide that that's what we want to do.
Yeah, that's huge. And for the, I don't think anyone's pretending 40 is not big. One is hard enough, but 40 a year is outstanding. That's some incredible numbers there. Like that is so
Mm,
impressive. And I think also the humility to recognize that it's got like it doesn't solve all the world's problems, but it's such an incredible unlock of momentum, positive momentum across all those different areas. And I
yeah.
think it does. It takes real leadership, right, to be able to look at something very small that has massive risk. It has the future ahead of it. But
Mm.
such a big part of it is to support many of them, and there's value in numbers because you kind of hedge your bets. Like if we have do 40, then you've got a good chance of some success. But also when you do 40, they support each other, and that's
Yeah.
that's that's a part we just haven't had strongly enough in Australian ecosystem.
And there needs to be diversity in that cohort too. Like I'm not of the opinion that success is becoming a unicorn company. You know, success for some of the businesses we work with are that they're providing economic opportunities from community for a community that typically misses out on that, or perhaps they're using it as an opportunity to preserve culture. You know, um, there's a lot of variability in that cohort as well. And that I think is really important because some of them are going to be going at the global level problems and others of them are solving really critical problems for their community or their region in Australia or actually creating work and opportunities for young people in that community that maybe have had to move elsewhere or are struggling with other social problems because of a lack of opportunity. So, you know, that a lot of numbers I agree with for many reasons. It's the you know, not just sort of casting a wide net and you know, to pay itself back if you want to go numerical, you only need a couple of super successful ones to do that because these are, you know, we're doing roughly $100,000 projects between 20 and 100,000. So they're not individually huge projects, but collectively, you know, they're having a really big impact. And so, yeah, we rather than, I guess, funneling a lot of money into one or two and hedging our bets, we're sort of saying, you know, let's support as many of these really aligned projects because it's got to be something CSIRO is able to work on and has capabilities in. Um, and to be cliche, we're called Kickstart for a reason. We're really initiating or supporting that to launch. And then so many other players in the startup and SME support system, you know, we rely on them as well. And we want to work together with them because we know that the success of, say, Rainstick or Ulu or that it's not just because they did Kickstart, it's because they worked with us and they got funding and then this person stepped in and that person and they're brilliant founders and it takes, you know, it takes a collective. But we know that when that all sort of comes together, that community comes together, you know, we've got so much brains trust here in Australia. We've got so many opportunities to be nationally and internationally competitive that it really excites me to see what's coming out of these sorts of programs that we're running. I'm super optimistic.
You and me both. I think we're a great combo on that side. Yeah, I think that really importantly, what you're talking about there in terms of diversity is off a couple of fronts. Like, there is a temptation sometimes to sort of say, yeah, like what let's to spend a lot of time working out what's definitely going to work. And I think you have the time and money and the lost opportunity of doing that is really significant. Like you need diversity of cultures, of thinking, of genders, of age, of ideas, of technologies, of sectors, and that they do really generally help build each other. And I'd go even further to say that the investment into these companies, my view is that there is 1,000% success rate, and what I mean by that is
Mm,
even if you invest $100,000 into an early stage company, the long term return of that is definitely going to be worth more than $1 million to Australia overall
mhm,
because you're investing in a future entrepreneur. Um, Canva wasn't Melanie Perkins' first business. Atlassian wasn't Mike Cannon-Brookes' first business. Like a
Mhm.
vast majority of business people, like you need to invest in that. But it's also investing in our global credentials. It's investing in this ecosystem, and it's investing in everything. So I think it's so important to take that longer term, broader approach rather than looking like, what if I invest my $20,000 in it and it doesn't work? And obviously it helps to have the bigger funding to go and support that. But I totally agree with you. I'm really, really excited that actually I think we've had a really significant 20 years of growth across a number of sectors
Mm,
and parts of this ecosystem. And I think they are coming to an important crescendo now when we really genuinely need these solutions. So, we need it across health and housing and women's health particularly,
mm,
and climate absolutely. Like there are so many problems to solve. And yeah, I think I'm massively optimistic
yeah.
alongside you.
My past pre-business life was as an environmental scientist. So I'm trained as a groundwater hydrologist and studied environmental sciences. And at the time left that because I was feeling quite disheartened and found doing that work to be really challenging on a day-to-day basis. However, coming in and working with these really creative entrepreneurs who recognize a lot of these challenges and have often some real deep expertise on that it's completely flipped, I guess, my way of looking at things and approaching these problems because I
Mm.
know that we've got the people here with the passion and the willingness and the capability to address a lot of the things that I was seeing when I was working more from the research and consulting in that space. So, yeah, we've got big challenges, but I really think we've got big solutions as well.
I love that as well. And I think what it says, I have a lot of people. So I'm finishing my master's of sustainable development in July. And by no means does that make me an expert on anything or a scientist by any stretch. But the one, like, it's been great to have sort of some rounded more understanding of this. But we need just a massive breadth of skills across all these, particularly climate. Like we need accountants and lawyers and salespeople and plumbers and electricians, and like we need so many different skills to solve. Like this is, and we really also need people to help make change. Like purely making a better product or researching the perfect outcome is not enough. We need to change
Mhm.
behaviors. We need to build new mindsets. We need to create the momentum in the marketplace. We need storytellers
Yeah.
and people with wild ideas and passion and community activators and global connectors. Like everyone can play an incredible positive role in this. Yeah, and I guess certainly what I've seen of your work is just at that really, really challenging junction. And I think you're now seeing incredible results that it has come from your commitment and patience of you and others in the team. Obviously, it's been great.
Mm.
So yeah, really excited about the next few years. Any bold get views of like where we're going? There's a lot of uncertainty out there, but it could be around a business you think is going to take off, or an idea, or something that's coming, or some momentum we're building towards.
Yeah, it's interesting because, yeah, there is a lot of uncertainty, but I think if we look back to, when COVID hit and all of that was a catalyst for a real big kick of innovation to happen. So, you know, it's a bit like the diamond forming under the pressure, right? So, do I have any hot tips? I'm not really sure about that specifically, but I'm certainly I'm curious as to what this will lead to. We're seeing a lot of I guess work towards being able to develop and manufacture things locally so that we don't run into the same supply chain issues that we've had in the past. I think, Australia's leading in a lot of areas of research around AI and things like that. So we know that that's going to completely change the way that we work. But for me, my biggest excitement and passion, I think, is the work that we are doing with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities and businesses. And we're seeing around 10% of the projects we work on each year with Indigenous owned businesses. And I really think what's going to change the planet for the better is this intersection of different knowledge systems. And I think finally, and well overdue, we're actually starting to see a greater acknowledgement of the role that that needs to play, and that needs to be Indigenous led. So we're seeing a lot of work and collaboration in that area at the moment. And I think particularly
Mm.
when it comes to climate, land management, understanding how to live in a more sustainable way, that is absolutely fundamental. Mhm.
Yeah, I really agree. I think it is one of the challenges I see definitely is the how do you solve something immediately with our current systems? So let's say, you know, how do you use capital markets to solve a climate problem? And that might give us the fastest results, but it might be actually either only temporary or only partial, versus how can we, I think at the same time, how do we start moving towards a different approach to living in harmony with nature versus living
Mm.
above it? I think it's a big challenge, and I think it goes again to the different kinds of people we need. Like
Absolutely.
uh,
The
yeah,
your comment before on storytellers and the sort of social aspects of change as well. We know that that was a really big thing for me working in the water sciences space. How we can say, oh, it's better if you plant this now rather than that. But if you're a fifth generation apple farmer and that's what your family's been doing, that's you actually have to take these things into consideration. So
yeah.
it takes a real, and that's not saying, oh, we need people to convince others to change their mind. It's like, okay, well, how do we iterate towards a solution that's going to work for all parties involved, but still have the timeline and environmental outcomes that we need to see as well. And that's not just a science problem, it's not just a social problem, it's people coming together and sharing and story and actively listening and being open to seeing things in another way than what they might have been, trained as in your particular discipline.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I think it's I think it's one thing I talk about, which is a bit of a mouthful, is cumulative convergent exponential growth, where I think all those things combine together and help each other. There's no silver mushroom, as I like to say, no single solution to it all.
I love it.
Megan, thanks so much for sharing and for all of your hard work. I really, really appreciate it. We'll add some links in the bottom to all those great companies, like Rainstick and Ulu, and all of your work with our Kickstart and on programs, etc. But thanks for sharing your story, and thanks for your amazing work. And we look forward to seeing the next 400 companies do amazing things
Yeah,
globally.
absolutely. Thanks. I better get to work then, Mick. So
Exactly. You come on, back to it. Thanks, Megan.
thanks. Bye.